Folks, we are less than 1 month away from rookies reporting for training camp.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Let's do this on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Matt Derry with you. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, and a Thursday, June 19th. Thank you for making us your first listen, everybody. Appreciate all of you that check us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, watching us on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. We welcome you in. Our good friend Mike Payton is going to join us. Hopefully you read Mike's stuff covering the Lions for A to Z Sports. Does a great job. I know Michelle checked in yesterday on our call of the day asking where else do we get Lions content from a podcast perspective? Pride of Detroit, the Detroit Lions podcast through Lions Wire with Jeff Risdon and others got mentioned yesterday. Well, Mike Payton does a great job for A to Z Sports covering the Lions. Great site. And he's going to join us coming up momentarily as we talk Lions offseason. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app if you're looking for tickets. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to our everyday listeners, everydayers that are out there that watch and listen to the podcast daily. We appreciate all of you. Got to give some love, certainly to our guy, Robert Banker. We love Diddy, our man. He was the man that charted the path for Gaines Media. And then charted the path for Gaines Media poster boy, Alex Anzalone, as we call him. But to Robert Banker, Robert sent me a note today how much he appreciates me. We appreciate you, Robert. Thanks for watching or listening daily here on Locked On Lions. All right, before we get to Mike Payton from A to Z Sports, who's going to join us in a second. The dates have come out, ladies and gentlemen, for training camp for the Lions and other NFL teams. We told you that the Lions' first open practice to the media, or not to the media, but to the media and fans, is going to be on July the 26th. The Lions have rookies reporting to Allen Park and 222 Rodwood Drive on July the 16th. Lions are going to open up camp very, very early on, due to the fact that the Lions, of course, are going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game July 31st against the Chargers. So they're going to open up with rookies on July 16th. Veterans will report on July 19th. So that means that the first practice where the Lions are officially going to hit the field for training camp will be on July the 20th. So this is very, very exciting. I can't even tell you, let's be honest here. And you guys know this, for those of you that follow me and have followed my career. I'm not a Detroit Tigers fan. I loathe and despise the Detroit Tigers, but you got to call it what it is here. They're the best team in baseball. They're playing great. It's going to be a fun summer down at Comerica Park. Last night was fun for Tiger fans as it was coined Javi Baez Day by the kids in the sandbox on television, yucking it up. They just win. They just win every night, it seems like. Tigers are playing great baseball. But while the Tigers are exciting and while we got a Red Wings offseason and a Pistons offseason coming up, there's nothing better than NFL football. There's nothing more titillating than Lions football for you guys. I mean, I cannot wait. I mean, July 16th, rookies are going to be out there. That's in less than a month. Less than a month. So 16th for rookies, 19th for veterans. Very, very exciting. Cannot wait. Looking so forward to it. And look, last year's ending of the season was disappointing for everybody. It was the biggest downer ever. We saw how high ticket prices were set to be for Lions, Eagles, NFC Championship game. And the Lions couldn't beat the Commanders and everything else. But this team has so much talent, so many weapons. We're going to be doing on the Locked On Network a top 100 NFL players, and there's tons of Lions that are on that list. So it is just extremely exciting. There's so much talent here. And yes, they stubbed their toe last year. The season ended 15-2 season ended with a divisional round loss. Lions are motivated to get back and get to that NFC Championship game and try to get to the Super Bowl. And the team is very good, and the schedule's almost impossible. And But hey, it's exciting that we're at least even talking about, hey, this is when the players are going to report for actual training camp. And that is just awesome. By the way, many of you have reached out and have asked if I've seen the headline. And yes, I have, by the way. That was also texted to me earlier from one of the members of the Crack research staff about Kelly Stafford. Yes, I have seen this. Kelly Stafford on her podcast said recently that she says taking weed gummies makes her a better parent. These are the kind of off-season headlines, and these are the kind of things that you guys want me to comment on. Hey, did you see this? Of course I saw it. Kelly Stafford says taking weed gummies makes her a better parent. Oh, man. I also saw something about her admitting to her plastic surgery, and this was lifted, and this was extended, and this was moved. I mean, man, she is trying so hard to be relevant and in the news. But I guess in a slow period like now in July, this is what makes headlines. Former Lions quarterback's wife. I'm not somebody that does the whole weed gummy thing. I get why people do. I'm not one of those that says I'm against any of it, to be honest with you. But making her a better parent, I don't know. Sounds a little trashy to me. Maybe I'm completely wrong here. Didn't she also come out and say that recently Matthew made her and the kids sit and coach and he sat in first class? I have a hard time believing that. But I guess Matthew said, yeah, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Matthew's such a good dude. So, and if there's any other Kelly Stafford headlines you guys want to send me, just put them up on YouTube or throw them at social media to me, and we'll talk about it. All right, Mike Payton's going to join us next from A to Z Sports, covers the Lions. We will talk to Mike all about the offseason and where this thing is headed. We will do that next here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. But first, Locked On Lions today brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in as your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. All right. Instead of juggling multiple apps and you can use all these other things, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. All right. Take control of your finances with our pals at Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. But as promised here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions, Mike Payton is with us from A to Z Sports, covers the Lions. Of course, we had Mike on the show many years ago when he was at Pride of Detroit. Mike, great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Matt.
What's going on, my friend?
Like we were just talking off air, off season, man. Just waiting very patiently for July 16th to get here and rookies start reporting to camp and just ready to get back out there.
I love it. You stirred the pot a little bit months ago with your bit about Jameson Williams, which I enjoyed, and I love your stuff. Take me through, I guess, first off, where your mind is now with, all right, we're kind of in the official off season here. They're not doing a mini camp. Anzalone wasn't there for OTAs, all this stuff, but now it's a waiting game, like you said, until the rookies report next month. How do you view where the Lions are right now?
I mean, I think they're looking pretty good. Like healthy wise, I think that's really what you're hoping for is you get Hutchinson back and you get Barnes back and a couple of these other guys. I know McNeil and Rodriguez are not going to be back till November, probably at the earliest, but I think this is about as good as you could hope for on the health wise things. Just getting everybody back on the field. A full 91 men. They have 91 this year because of Ahmed Hassani with the international exempt that he gets. So that's awesome. You get an extra player. So yeah, I think everything looks really good. I think, this is a really good team that's ready to compete for a Super Bowl.
All right, let's break it down 1 through 91. No, I'm just kidding. It is a lot of guys, like you said. And I read what you wrote the other day about edge rushers, and just that's the hot topic. I know Brad Holmes was on Chris Long's show, and we talked about it on yesterday's show, just, discussing the guys that he likes on the edge and the guys that he likes interior wise. But how do you view that situation in terms of where the Lions are defensive line wise right now?
I mean, I think partially I'm in the same spot that most Lions fans are. I would have loved to have seen the Lions go out and get somebody that would have been, I don't think anybody was asking for an all-pro or a pro bowler or anything like that. I think they were just looking for a little bit of experience, maybe somebody who can get pressure, who has shown in the NFL that he can be good. I thought Zadarius Smith would be that guy, and maybe he still will be. I do like Ahmed Hassanin a lot. I think that this guy is going to be somebody who could be a star. I look at him like Ezekiel Ansah, just a guy who just had never really played football, but he's an athlete. He just takes to the sport. He just gets it. And I think he's going to be really good. I just don't know how quick that's going to be. But in terms of the guys that are already on the roster, I don't think we're giving enough credit to the Josh Pascals or the Levi Onwuzurike or Mekhi Wingo or some of these guys that have been able to get pressure and while they're not getting home as much as everybody would love and as much as the Eagles did against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they're still able to get that pressure, which is incredibly important to the Lions. It gets the quarterbacks off their spots. It makes them throw bad throws. And that's why you have reasons like, the Lions being second in defensive DVOA last year, even after Aiden Hutchinson was injured, or they allowed the second fewest passing touchdowns in the league. It's because they're able to get guys off their spots. They're able to get pressure. Sure, you'd love them to get home more, but I think that they have a pretty good, talented staff that they have together right now. I'm interested to see if Marcus Davenport can stay healthy, because if he can, it's never been a question of whether or not he was a good player, because he is. He just can never stay healthy. And if he can, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's the big question. Mike Payton with us from A to Z Sports is certainly Davenport. I think what's interesting is this Zadarius Smith situation. I'm sure his agent is telling him, hey, no more red carpet interviews where you're telling everybody you're going back to Detroit, because the price tag's going to have to come down. And obviously a guy like Zadarius doesn't want to come to mini camp or come to training camp in August. He'll wait it out a little bit, or even July. But how do you view that? Do you think Brad Holmes is thinking like you are, Mike, a little bit like, look, Davenport, Hassanin, you mentioned Pascal on a contract year, or do you bring in Smith and let them all compete?
I think there's a really good chance that Smith is back. I'm kind of operating under the assumption that that's going to happen. I don't have any inside info on that other than what Holmes told us at the spring league meetings and then before the draft, that there is contact that's been maintained ever since the release happened. And currently it's in the hands of Smith's agent, which tells you kind of we're waiting to see what Smith wants to do money wise and if he's willing to take a little bit less. But yeah, I think even if he doesn't come back, there's clearly a lot of confidence in what the Lions have on the edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And I think they've shown enough reason for us to believe in that confidence, just based off of, like I said, second overall in DVOA last year, defensive DVOA. That is really good. That's a sign of a very, very good defense. And had they not suffered all those injuries after week 12, I think we're talking about the Super Bowl winning Detroit Lions at this point, even without Hutchinson. I just think that defense was that good and that unique together.
Your thoughts on the Alex Anzalone situation? Do you think come July 19th, there's going to be any kind of controversy, or do you think he'll be there?
I'm with Dan Campbell on this one. I don't think anything. I think he'll be there. I don't think there's going to be any holdouts. Shouldn't be any problems. I totally understand why Anzalone is looking for a new deal. He has absolutely no security left on the deal that he has now. No guaranteed money, no nothing. It's just he's kind of hanging out there on the wind a little bit. And again, after week 12, after he got injured last year, you saw a steep decline in how that defense played. So he's very, very important to what they're able to do. So yeah. Get him paid.
Mike Payton with us from A to Z Sports, covers the Lions, does a great job. You look at the rest of the defense. You mentioned earlier, you're confident in them based on some of the advanced numbers and the metrics and stuff. Calvin Shepard taking over for Aaron Glenn. Any concern there? Are you feeling good? Especially, I know that the guys love this dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more concerned about John Morton than I would be Calvin Shepard. Shepard's been here this is a guy that back in 2022 when they were on Hard Knocks, like everybody saw how controlled how captivated the team is by this guy. We all thought he could have been a defensive coordinator years ago. This is no shock to anyone that he has this job. And, something that he talked about at the combine, just how he was calling plays. He would bring up all the defensive plays on the screen, and he would call everything the week before. And then Aaron Glenn would call it in game, and they would match completely. Like they were that simpatico. That's how ahead of his game that Shepard is. I think he's absolutely ready to be a DC. The only problem that the Lions are going to have is how long is he going to be the DC before somebody wants him to be their head coach.
Do you view, I guess looking at the defense and offense, really everything, you looked at the offseason. Was there a favorite move that you liked, whether it was in free agency or re-signing or even in the draft, something that you liked the best about what's gone on here from January to now?
I think it was really impressive how the Lions lost Carlton Davis. We kind of all knew that was going to happen, and then totally turned around and got better in that position with DJ Reed and got him for cheaper. All the corners were getting signed for significantly more than what Reed got, and they just got a steal. I think that was really impressive by the front office to do that. It's not easy to get an upgrade and then not pay more for it.
On the offensive side, everybody wants to know about right guard, left guard, and center. All of a sudden we're in a spot with Frank Ragnow's retirement where one of the best offensive lines in the league, I'm not saying it's going to nosedive by any stretch, not with Hank Fraley and certainly with Dan and everybody else, but there are some questions in the middle there. How do you think that's going to shake out?
That's going to be really interesting. And I think it's, the assumption has kind of been that they'll just throw Graham Glasgow in that spot, and that might be what they wind up doing. But I think there's going to be more of a battle there. I think they're going to test out everybody. It'll be Glasgow. They'll throw Tate Ratledge there, see how that goes. He's already been kind of working in at center during OTAs, rookie minicamp. There was already talk of cross-training him. And then there's Kingsley Ekuguan, whose name I always mess up, but he's the actually only other true safety only other true center on this team. And he impressed a lot last year. We all thought he was going to make the 53-man roster. He ultimately didn't. They kept him on the practice squad and then brought him back this year. But Dan Campbell's brought him up unprompted a couple of times during OTAs. I think there's a real shot that maybe, it's a long shot, I guess, that he would be the starter right out of the gate. But I think there's a shot that maybe he makes the team and he grows into that position even more. I thought he was really good at Florida. I thought he was great in the preseason last year, and he's a name to keep an eye on for sure.
It's interesting. I'm with you. I think Ratledge was drafted for a reason, and I do think, the previous regime drafts Ragnow and plays him at guard the first year. This regime, I think, like you said, I wouldn't stun me if week one Ratledge is the guy at center. The question is then, what are they going to do about right guard and left guard? And will Glasgow move over to the side where he was better 2 years ago? And obviously, they've got others in there that they like, including, the big fella from Boston College that they drafted last year. So they've got a lot of options. Losing Zeitler and Ragnow is huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing that could have happened to the Lions. The worst thing that could have happened to the Lions this offseason was losing two really important players in the center of their offensive line, which was the best offensive line in the league last year. And now it's kind of an unproven entity. We don't really know. You mentioned Christian Mahogany. We think he's going to start at left guard. And what happens with Miles Frazier, this other rookie who could play every position on the offensive line. When Ragnow was around, I really liked him as kind of an Evan Brown type guy who could just be a do-all off the bench, play any position you need him to. And now I'm looking at him like, well, is he going to wind up starting? Like, who knows? It's really going to be interesting to see how this unfolds at camp.
You mentioned before about Mahogany, and I don't know why I was blanking on his name, but he played so well for Glasgow last year. And, does he step up to the point where he's a lock to be in there? And then obviously Gio Manu is another one where, is this the secret weapon? And I know you mentioned Dan Campbell mentioning players. He brought up Manu's name about moving a guard also at the owners' meetings. Is that another one where they go, we've got this, you just guys don't know it yet, but we know what you guys don't know, we know, and maybe a couple of these young guys are going to be really ending up being good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. They probably have a ton of ideas on the board that we're just kind of haven't grasped at yet. Manu is something that Campbell talked about at the league meetings, potentially moving to guard, like you mentioned. He's really come along physically and kind of gets the game. It's looking better. It's looking better for him. He doesn't look so much like last year. He looked like he was 2 or 3 years away from being 2 or 3 years away. But he's coming along. I don't know if they go that route just yet, but I do believe that he could potentially be a starter within the next couple of years. But yeah, it's just gonna be really interesting to see what happens. And Mahogany, you mentioned, was really good last year, and he was absolutely really good. But when you have Frank Ragnow in the middle at that center spot, it really helps those guards out. And you have to wonder, how is he going to perform when he doesn't have that all-pro center next to him? Is he going to still be as good as he was as a rookie, or is there going to be some sophomore slump? Or there's just a lot of questions there.
Got a Jared Goff question for Mike. We will do that next and ask him a little bit about the rest of the NFC North, including the offseason champions, the Chicago Bears. We'll do that coming up next. Mike Payton with us from A to Z Sports, does a great job covering the Detroit Lions, is with us today on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. I brought this up last week on one of the shows, Mike, about Jared Goff. John Morton takes over for Ben Johnson. Everybody says, well, Jared will just help more with play calling and with seeing things and scheming. Then Dan Skipper said the other day after Ragnow retired, Jared will just do the calls and see what Frank saw, and he'll help out a young center, or even if it's Glasgow. Are we putting too much on Jared now to have to do everything? There are some nationally that think he's not even that good, and that he's been a product of Johnson and the O-line and everything else. How do you view that?
I mean, I couldn't disagree with that anymore. Like, I think Goff is absolutely a huge part of this offense getting installed the way that it was. Johnson, when he came back, said that Goff was an extension of him and he was an extension of Goff. And they just worked together so much in putting this offense together. I think Ben obviously gets all the credit, but Ben never got on the field. You know what I mean? That was Jared who executed every single thing that was done out there. I believe that he is going to have a lot of say and not say to the point where he's going to shut things down necessarily, but I think he's going to have a lot of input, I guess would be the better word, into how this offense is put together. And that comes from John Morton himself. He wants that input from Goff, but also from other players. He wants collaboration as much as possible in this offense, and they're definitely going to do it. And that's what they've been doing, and it's worked really well for them.
You just wonder about putting a lot on his plate, yet like you said, another year of maturity, another year where he's got all of his guys. I referenced before jokingly about the Jameson Williams situation, but everybody's talked about him stepping it up this year and really having a breakout year. How do you view his situation, the 2 years left on the contract, and how confident are you that he will bust out?
I think that he absolutely has the opportunity to be a huge player. I mean, we saw what he was capable of doing last year when he was on the field, wasn't suspended, and he looks very good. He can change the offense, change the game completely. Whether or not they can keep him on the team beyond 2025 is like a whole nother question, because it really is just going to depend on how they structure out some of these contracts. And he is going to be the most expensive player out of all these guys that they need to extend. And, that was kind of the point of that article that I wrote a few months back ahead of the draft, was just the idea that they want to make Sam Laporta probably the highest paid tight end. Jahmyr Gibbs will probably be the highest paid running back. Brian Branch will probably surpass Kirby Joseph's contract and be the highest paid safety. And Jack Campbell is expected to be really good. He could be one of the best, or one of the highest paid linebackers after this year. Like, it's going to be a lot, and all these guys are going to want to get paid.
Yeah.
And you could do things with void years, and you could make contracts work. But if you don't have Jameson there, it sucks for your offense. But money wise, it makes things a lot easier. I honestly, I would hate to see him go, but I would understand from a business standpoint why they would do such a thing.
You can't keep everybody. You can't. And they've done a marvelous job of retaining all these guys. And I get the Anzalone angst a bit on his side, but you're right. I mean, the guys they've re-signed have all wanted to stay, but it's only so many you can keep. Look at what happened with Jonah Jackson a couple of years ago. Interesting, though, that I got to bring up Isaac Tesla because obviously everybody loves talking about the draft and him. Do you view him as a guy that could be an eventual JMO replacement, or are you just thinking they did need to get a little bit younger? And Tim Patrick's been on 1-year deals, and Khalif Raymond, is what he is. How do you view that situation?
I think it's the latter. I don't think that. I mean, Tesla can be a really good X receiver, good high point in the end zone type of guy, contested catch. He can't do what Jameson Williams can do, though. You know what I mean? It's I don't see him as a replacement for Jameson Williams. If they were to let him go, I think they would have to go out and draft another speed demon, and it's just not good. It's just not what Tesla is capable of doing. But I think he is this solid replacement for Tim Patrick, and they get younger in that spot, and it'll be a good hand.
All right, Detroit Lions obviously trying to win their third straight NFC North championship, and amazing, Mike, with where we've been and how we've seen this team grow. How do you view the rest of the division, and are you on the Chicago Bear bandwagon?
I'm not on the Chicago Bear bandwagon. I thought they made some really. I don't know why they took Colston Loveland. I just didn't understand that when they had Cole Kmet. It's great to have two good tight ends. That's fine. I thought, offensively, I thought they grabbed that other receiver later who I can't remember his name at the moment, but
Luther from Missouri, Luther Burden.
Luther Burden. I thought that was a pretty good pick. Free agency wise, I thought they did really nice with their offensive line, but they just signed a bunch of older guys. I mean, they signed a bunch of guys whose name people know, and I think that was something that got Bears fans really excited. But I don't know if that translates necessarily to them just automatically being really good. And I think Ben's a great coach, great offensive coordinator, but I don't know if he could turn this team around in 1 year. I don't expect them to go out and win the division or make the playoffs, to be honest.
Then who pushes the Lions the hardest in the division, in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the Green Bay Packers. That's the team. That's the devil the most at this point. The Vikings would be the right choice if they had a quarterback that we knew could play in the NFL, and we don't really know what J.J. McCarthy is yet, or if he's that guy. We've only really seen him in preseason or at camp. But the Packers, we know Jordan Love is a pretty good quarterback, and he just got a new toy with Matthew Golden, a guy who is a lot like Jameson Williams in the sense that he can just fly down the field 4.2 speed rather. He's so fast. It's going to be interesting to see. That's kind of been the thing. How long for so long he just needs a receiver. He needs receivers, and now he's kind of got those. And it's going to be interesting to see how that offense looks. But that's a pretty good team. That's a playoff team. I think they're going to be hard.
NFC title game. Obviously, that's the goal for the Lions to get back there after they didn't get back last year. How do you view the rest of the not the rest of the division, the rest of the conference? Really, certainly Philly and the Lions lost to Washington, but any other teams that come up and you think could bite Detroit? And obviously the schedule's so difficult too.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be kind of the same teams. I think the Cowboys might be a little bit better than they were last year, and Seattle's always tough. And LA, I mean, that's LA is really, really good. They got younger, but their young players are really playing well. Jared Verse and some of these guys. Like, that's a team to definitely watch out for. And obviously there's a little bit of a rivalry there too. So, when those two teams match up, it's always a fun game. Buccaneers is another one. Like, you cannot rule those guys out. They are so scrappy. And obviously we know that the Lions lost to them last year, and they're another team that I think got better in the offseason as well. So at Philly, is there going to be a Super Bowl hangover, or are they just going to keep pushing their way through the league? We'll see.
Well, all those teams you mentioned, the Lions have to play. That's the thing. This schedule is absolutely murderous, but if anybody can certainly do it, and look, they might not win. They're not going to win 15 games again, but they might be better with a worse record. So, Mike, great to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for having me.
All right, Mike Payton with us from A to Z Sports, A2ZSports.com. Check out Mike on social media as well on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions.